Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, sponsored by Amazon Web Services and Equinix. Today's topic is Expand Your Enterprise Cloud Strategy with Amazon Direct Connect and Equinix. My name is Eric Hui, and I'm a Director for Cloud IT Media for Equinix Asia Pacific. And next to me is Kingsley. Kingsley's from Amazon. So Kingsley, maybe a quick introduction from your side as well.
Hi, thanks, Eric. Yeah, this is Kingsley Wood. I'm with Amazon Web Services Business Development Team covering APAC, and we're excited to come to you today to explore the options that Amazon and Equinix offer together, part of the Direct Connect, give you a bit of a background as well for Amazon Web Services, and explain how you might be able to use that in your company to leverage the cloud. So let me pass it back to Eric, and we'll begin.
Okay, so just a quick note of the logistics. So we'll be running through the presentation. And then if you do have questions, please do key it in the chat box. We have some staff members to help collect those questions, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. We'll definitely leave some time to address your concerns and getting more information. And if you have any questions regarding Equinix and Amazon and would like to leave a contact for us to talk to you directly, privately later, you're also welcome to do that. Please do key it in the dashboard in the chat box, and our staff will collect it as well. Okay, so with that said, we'll start today's presentation. Okay, so cloud, definitely it is a computing paradigm change, and a lot of the research firms out there, including Gartner, have definitely been putting up statements and research reports to indicate that it's going to be a paradigm change for the future. Well, you can see that there's a quote here coming from Peter down in Gartner saying that there's going to be a lot of IT changes and paradigm changes in the future. Now, from a growth driver point of view, you can definitely see in this slide that there is a lot of pull factors that they're going to be putting a lot of traffic in our networks, different variety of traffic. You can see that there's video traffic, there's also the cloud traffic, there's also be a lot of storage demands coming in the years ahead. And these have different growth rates. And you can see, all these are basically telling us that, we do have a lot of growth in the future, and we will have to go look into new ways of utilizing technology, transforming our IT infrastructures in order to go support this growth in the future. Thinking from a corporate IT challenge and trends point of view, definitely, if you look at your corporate IT, there is a lot of them talks about moving from the CapEx expenditures to an OpEx kind of a business model. We will also look into areas on how do you make sure that you're using and paying for the IT infrastructures that you need at that certain point in time, and only when you want to consume it, then you're willing to go pay for extra. As far as the data center trends point of view, there's also a lot of talks about consolidation. There's a lot of these locations out there that the gear is actually going to be moved around, transformed around, and relocated around. At the same time, there's also a lot of talks about virtualization. I'm sure this is not a unfamiliar terminology from a lot of the folks out there, but as you virtualize, it's not just virtualizing your network resources. You're also virtualizing your storage, virtualizing your servers, and a whole lot of aspects that you have to consider. High-density compute, HPCs, definitely a lot of talks out there. Big data, one of those areas that how we're going to deal with all these bits of data, from log files, from tracking files, how we actually get intelligence out of that. A lot of these things are being addressed and being asked about in the market right now. Data centers, obviously, some of them were built a while ago. We also know that from some of the academic fields, that a lot of data centers are pretty much designed like 20 years ago. It's time to transform. It's trying to look into new areas of utilizing data centers. So all of these are all feeding into more like a build versus buy decision. How are you going to look in evolving your data centers in the usage of data centers in the future? Now, we mentioned about CapEx, we mentioned about OpEx. And I think it's pretty clear that if you're looking for an operation expense model, you will be focusing more on the right-hand side. You should see that there is co-location, there's hosting, There's also utility cloud models and data center outsourcing. From what Equinix and also Amazon today, we're definitely covering very, very nicely in the operation expense model and also in those three aspects: colocation, hosting, and utility cloud. You can see that a lot of the things that we see in the cloud market as it evolves is different cloud models. You would like to look into utilizing resources in the public cloud. Sometimes you'll also be looking in permutation, which is the hybrid cloud model, having some of augments your private infrastructure and have a seamless path moving to a public cloud. So all of these coming together are definitely some areas that we see that the data center managers are facing these decisions, build versus buy models. Equinix is a data center services company. We are helping all these businesses reach out to partners and customers worldwide. We have almost more than actually 100 data centers right now, and we are definitely helping customers reach out to different markets. We do cover the 5 continents. We are in 38 markets in 13 countries. So it does help you a footprint to reach out to the global environment, whether you want to reach your customers because of globalization and e-commerce platforms. At the same time, you're also looking at your supply base. It's getting increasingly global as well. So that itself is helping view a lot of the data center requirements when you go look at the build versus buy models. Another aspect that Equinix is strong is definitely looking at the ecosystems. As said before, we are reaching out different markets, but you also want to have a very rich set of partners, of customers that you can reach out by coming into a data center when you are looking for that kind of a growth. So Equinix and the platform Equinix are going to hear more about that, and together with our partnership with Amazon Web Services, it's going to be giving you a lot of showcase on how you're going to bridge into the future for IT infrastructures. So I'm going to pass over to Kingsley and talk a little bit more about cloud computing and some of the aspects that how Amazon Web Services is proceeding on the cloud computing developments. Pass over to Kingsley.
Thanks, Eric. What I'll try and cover here is a brief introduction to Amazon's perspective of cloud computing. It's definitely a buzzword that's being thrown around quite a bit out there. We have our own view of what a true public cloud or true cloud computing really represents. But we do recognize, and that's pretty much what this webinar today is about, we recognize that there are customers with specific needs or special cases where either from a policy regulation point of view or specialized hardware might have built up their own private data centers or systems in co-locations like Equinix, where they need to maintain that individual aspect of their hardware, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to migrating over to the cloud immediately. So the cloud is great for public cloud usage, for websites, for a lot of applications migrate very easily to the public cloud, and cloud computing can help lower costs and so on. We'll get into a bit of the details on that shortly, but we definitely don't want to give the impression that it's an all or nothing proposition. A lot of customers can maintain their existing infrastructure in Equinix, and as we'll describe all the options coming up, you can then facilitate an augmentation of that existing infrastructure and capacity by adding burstability, scalability as well into Amazon's cloud in addition to your system. So this becomes truly a kind of a hybrid model. So part of the need for all this is the tremendous amount of growth in data and growth in capacity requirements. A lot of the applications and use cases which weren't even envisaged a few years ago have seen such tremendous growth that it becomes very difficult for even huge companies to keep up with that in terms of growing their own infrastructure. So we are offering, with cloud computing and Amazon Web Services, we're offering you the ability to expand rapidly, to scale very quickly at exceptionally low costs with less CapEx than would have been required to expand it into your own infrastructure. So one of the questions I just want to put to bed very quickly is a lot of people ask, well, why is Amazon talking to us? Don't you guys sell books? So yes, we sell a lot of books, we sell a lot of things, and our consumer business has grown so rapidly that we became very good at expanding very quickly on the IT infrastructure required to maintain millions of customers, millions of products, huge catalog, massive websites as well. So what we're going to do now is, do you want to talk about the poll?
Yeah. So we just put up the poll just to gauge a little bit of the audience about how you are looking at cloud models, hybrid cloud models a bit. So you can please take a minute just to click those answers, so that will help us gauge and give you a little bit more insight for your interest.
Great, thanks. So let's talk about a little bit about what does cloud computing actually offer us. Just to round off what I was saying earlier on that earlier slide, Amazon got really good at the IT infrastructure, so we started to see a lot of the benefits that we were reaping ourselves inside of Amazon, and we thought we can offer those to all of our customers in terms of running their business and running their IT infrastructure needs. And we've already talked a little bit about the massive savings on upfront capital expense in terms of expanding data centers, but the fact is that once you're running things in the cloud, the exceptionally low cost derives from the fact that we only charge on a pay-as-you-go model. This is really where the utility aspect of cloud computing comes in. By lowering the costs of your hourly rates for the different capacity that you need, you can vary the costs depending on the capacity that you need at that specific time. So similar to switching off and on a light, when you only need it a certain amount, you can pay for that amount. When you don't need more, you can switch off the capacity that you don't need. A very important aspect of cloud computing as well is the aspect of self-service infrastructure. We want you to be able to get what you need on demand when you need it. It's no good having to call up your provider or your vendor and go through an agreement and give them several weeks' notice when you need new capacity. We want you to be able to take that capacity as you need it, when you need it, very, very quickly on demand, because you can't foresee all the time the traffic spikes that you might have. The other aspect that we refer to as elasticity is the ability to scale up and down. You can add capacity when you need it, but you can also remove it when you don't. If you don't have that flexibility, we don't believe that's true cloud computing. And that flexibility really plays very heavily into the cost-saving potential of cloud computing. And finally, there's the ability to give you the capability of changing your capacity on demand very quickly, which gives you the agility to actually change your business requirements. If you decide that you want to change something or test something, do a new dev and test environment, you can do that very quickly using cloud computing without having to foresee the needs of those capacity changes up front. One of the best examples of this that we've managed to pass on to our customers is the ability to drop our costs. A lot of people ask me, well, what happens if your prices go up? And we've got all our data inside of Amazon Web Services. Well, a fortunate opportunity that we have is that because the sheer volume of the capacity that we're buying to handle all of our hundreds and thousands of customers around the world, we're able to actually lower our costs. I always tell people it's fantastic working for a company that's actually lowered the prices of our infrastructure 19 times in the 5 years that I've been with Amazon. And here are some of the examples of how we've lowered that. Because as capacity becomes more inexpensive, as the technology improves, we're able to pass those cost savings on to our customers because we have such a massive amount of capacity under our control. A good visualization of this whole concept is the pay-as-you-go model. If you look at a traditional hardware infrastructure that you might be required to buy ahead of anticipated demand, one of the early on realizations that you'll have is that many times when your capacity needs are below what you've actually purchased, you've wasted quite a bit. So we call that an opportunity cost. You've got more infrastructure, more hardware than you really need. It's sitting idle, and that's a real big pity. But an even bigger problem, and that's the red triangle there, is when your capacity actually is not good enough for the traffic that you need at this right time. So what you have is a situation where you're not able to service the demands of your customers. The traffic capacity simply exceeds your ability to meet that demand. And that's an even worse situation, because no matter how many phone calls you make and how hard you plead, you're not going to be able to convince your hardware vendor to deliver that stuff right when you need it very, very quickly. So what cloud computing does is enables you to elastically follow the needs of your capacity dynamically. You can actually change the capacity that you have on the hour every hour if you want and vary it in relation to the traffic that's coming in. So in that way, cloud computing is able to save you the opportunity or give you the opportunity to actually meet the demands as they come in, even if it exceeds your prior expectations. Just some of the recognition that we've had from some of the analysts in terms of where Amazon Web Services is in the market. And quite an interesting factoid here. Back in 2004, I believe, when Amazon was a $2.76 billion company, the consumer business, if you take all the capacity that we were running globally to operate that Amazon.com infrastructure at that time, that's the kind of size capacity that we now add every single day to AWS. So you can imagine how much capacity that really is in terms of hardware that's flowing into Amazon Web Services to meet the demand of all the increase in traffic. If you look at our storage system, S3, we actually have just exceeded, just this last couple of weeks, 1 trillion objects. We were at 762 billion objects at the end of last year, but now we've hit 1 trillion objects. And in fact, the number of peak requests that we're now measuring at our busiest times exceeds 650,000 requests per second. That's the kind of volume that massive companies like Dropbox and SmugMug and NASA and Netflix and so on are doing traffic on S3. Part of the reason why we've been so successful is our incredible pace of innovation. It's very exciting how many new products and features we add. If any of you are on our newsletter, you'll notice that literally every week there's a new announcement with a new product and a new feature that we've been adding all the time. So some of our big customers have really appreciated this. If you look at customers like the NASDAQ, they actually store all of that trading data daily onto S3, and they use Amazon Web Services to distribute that content very rapidly. Part of the benefit for that for them is that they don't have to focus on the IT requirements of distributing massive amounts of data, storing massive amounts of data, archival, backups, etc. We take care of all of that for them. And when you look at companies like NASA, the federal government of the US, etc., they've trusted us with the storage of that data, and we can actually help them in terms of deploying it to their customers much more efficiently than they could do that themselves. In terms of the global infrastructure, we have several regions around the world now. Japan, Singapore, South America most recently was added. We also have, in addition to that, many edge locations. We now have 33 cities around the world that are covered with edge locations. Most recently, 2 weeks ago, we just opened up our newest edge location in Sydney, Australia, which gives us the ability to deploy content from Amazon to all the different customers wherever they are very, very rapidly. So that's been a very powerful ability that we can give customers to go global very, very quickly. In terms of security, which is obviously a major concern for many customers, we have achieved certifications as we've listed here. You can go to our website, aws.amazon.com/security, to download our white paper, which describes in intricate detail how we secure the data centers both physically, but then also from a software point of view, from a logistics point of view, how we segregate the privacy of the data by account and so on. And we also emphasize that it's a shared responsibility model. We expect that customers have full control of their data, full control of their instances and capacity in the cloud. So it's up to them to make sure that they maintain security from their perspective according to their policies. And this ties back to what we can do with Equinix. If you have very tight, stringent requirements on your existing hardware, you want to extend those rules and regulations and policy requirements into your augmented capacity, which is in the cloud. And as we'll go into some of the details of the connection options, that allows you to do that very securely. So just in terms of a summary view here of all the infrastructure together, you can visualize our systems as building blocks in the cloud, building blocks that can be used to put together your application in various components, some of which may be in your own data centers or in colos like Equinix and so on, and then the ability to connect directly with those into the Amazon Web Services cloud to actually augment your capacity like that. So we're going to get into a little bit more detail here, Eric and I, about how you actually establish a connection between the hybrid model, the connection between your existing infrastructure outside of the cloud and the cloud infrastructure that you build up in Amazon Web Services. So to take you through it, I'm going to hand back to Eric, and he can talk about those options.
Thank you, Kingsley. So actually, you know, folks, we did a poll earlier, and we were trying to gauge the audience that how receptive are you with the cloud computing models and hybrid cloud models, and the result came back to be about 60+% have been actively looking and even deploying hybrid cloud or public cloud models. So that's actually a very positive sign that there's indeed a lot of interest.
If I can just add a note to that, that's a good representation that it shows that there's a willingness to share at least some of the responsibility between public clouds and private clouds. It's good to see that very few companies are still recognizing that they have to keep everything in private infrastructure. Of course, there are going to be certain exceptions and some very specialized hardware components that are never going to be in a public cloud infrastructure, but it makes sense that most companies are now entertaining the idea of sharing their responsibility between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So, folks, we will have another poll shortly, but let's continue on just talking about the different connect options from the Equinix side towards the Amazon Web Services side. So in this slide, it actually details out the 3 different ways of actually accessing Amazon Web Services through our high-performance data centers worldwide. We have first, on the leftmost side, you see there is a Direct Connect. This is what we call the most direct layer 1 fiber connection between your infrastructures, direct facilities towards Amazon. So that is actually a very low latency, high performance connect towards Amazon. Now there's another choice here, which is you see in the lower side, which is what they call the Ethernet Exchange and VPC. That's a layer 2, 3 kind of an access, so that you can connect Amazon through the Ethernet access layer. And then the third one is actually going through the optimized IP, the IP from a normal internet. However, in Equinix, because we have a lot of choices of network providers in our data center, you can actually optimize it by selecting the right network provider to give you that kind of access. So to optimize that kind of access, so that you also could get your choices to utilize Amazon Web Services site.
Thanks, Eric. And if I can add just one more note, I just wanted to explain to people who might not know what VPC is. This is our virtual private cloud, and it actually enables you to extend your network on-premise or in Equinix into Amazon Web Services with the same network ranges and same network IP ranges, right? Mm-hmm. So by doing so, you can literally make those machines think they're on exactly the same network, even though they're in a burstable public cloud. They augment your existing infrastructure like that.
Yeah, that's great. So you can see, folks, with these kind of options in here, depending on your situations, depending on your readiness, depending on your latency requirements, you can have all these options to connect to Amazon, utilize the public cloud resources, or if you are thinking of a hybrid cloud model, it actually serves to give you that seamless path in the future, or in the near term, connect to Amazon Web Services. And when this Direct Connect option was made available early this part of the year, it's definitely very apparent to the Equinix customers that you're now going to be able to leverage Amazon Web Services as part of your own infrastructure, that utilizing the public cloud resources. Now, I talked earlier that Equinix is a very rich ecosystem company. We do serve a lot of different kind of customers. It's actually listed all in here. We serve the typical and traditional network providers. As said before, if you're talking about the IP transit and IP choices, there's a lot of it when you come to Platform Equinix. We also serve the content digital media side, the CDN networks customers as well, enterprise customers. If you're looking for augmenting infrastructures to go into utilizing public cloud resources, that's also a good avenue of coming to Equinix to serve that purpose. We also go serve the financial services customers, help them to connect to exchanges, to high-performance trading, also to get market data from the different kinds of market data providers to help them make well-informed decisions when they do trades. Now, in specific to today about cloud and IT providers, Amazon Web Services is definitely one of those key customers and partners of ours, but you also have other SaaS providers like RightScale, which they go do orchestration and management of cloud workloads, or Carpathia, which they do highly secure managed hosting environments. So you can see that there's a wide variety of different choices if you want to go into Platform Equinix to go utilize and also to realize your cloud strategy. So going back to Kingsley now, but before we do that, maybe we can go through the second poll, which actually going to engage your audience a little bit, try to understand, what kind of connect structures you're thinking about bridging over to Amazon or public cloud providers. So folks, if you appreciate that, you can do a quick minute to click the screen with this other poll that shows up right now.
Great, thanks, Eric. So while you're answering that question, I just wanted to give you some examples of customers that have had huge success using Amazon Web Services, and maybe you can see similarities between some of these customers and the usages that you have. First of all, on enterprise workloads, we support all the major vendors, Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, IBM, etc. These are all typical workloads that you might have been running for years. You might have acquired licenses within your enterprise. There's no reason why you can't move those workloads into the cloud or augment your existing infrastructure with additional capacity in the cloud. So we like to think that there's no need to buy additional hardware on your on-premise or your colo locations. You can actually buy new hardware or new infrastructure up front there. So you can use the cloud to add more capacity if you needed it for instance, a dev and test environment. Let's say you wanted to try a new version of something or make some tests on a database. There's no need for that to be happening in existing infrastructure. Why not just use the cloud where you can augment it? And with a direct connect or a very secure connection, you can be rest assured that that's augmenting your existing capacity with secure capacity in the public cloud at the public cloud pay-as-you-go model costing, which can really save you a lot of money. Obviously, Amazon's had tremendous success in all the digital media distribution. The gaming industry has been very big for us. Netflix, Zynga, these kind of companies have had huge success in distributing to the public, so we take care of that sort of infrastructure needs. It certainly isn't something that a company wants to waste time on or spend their resources on. That's not really their core business. It's more about the content generation. From a big data and HPC point of view, we give you the ability to burst into large amounts of capacity that you wouldn't normally have had access to. So some of the largest companies in the world have had tremendous amounts of infrastructure on-premise for many years. Now you, the consumer, can actually get access to those, that content and that sort of burstable capacity very easily. From a disaster recovery and archive point of view, this is where the public cloud can really shine. If you can duplicate your existing infrastructure in the public cloud and keep it running warm just in case something goes wrong, you can actually save a tremendous amount of money in not having to have that infrastructure up and running when it's not actually being used. It's one thing to duplicate your entire data center to a second one just in case there's a failover and you need to move it to a disaster recovery scenario. It's another thing if you can set that whole thing up in the public cloud but keep it dormant until something goes wrong. That's a very big different cost saving. So some of the examples of some of the hundreds and thousands of customers we have out there, you can see some of the typical brands that you recognize. Companies like Shell have made a decision that no more physical infrastructure needs to be purchased if they can buy it in the cloud. So they're using the cloud to burst into capacity that they might not have thought they needed some years back, but they don't have to spend money on that infrastructure now. They can just use it in the cloud, switch it off when they don't need it. Some of the big companies like the New York Times are seeing tremendous savings in doing large amounts of media processing in short periods of time, but then shutting that infrastructure down when they don't need it. And again, using a direct connect scenario, they're able to augment their existing infrastructure as if it was on the same network. That means that the public cloud is able to work for them from a cost-saving point of view, but from a security point of view, they're able to maintain full control of that. Right down at the bottom there, you can't help but notice Amazon.com. Of course, Amazon.com itself runs on Amazon Web Services. So we're very proud to be using our own infrastructure to host that. Do you want to look at the poll results, Eric? Yeah.
So the poll results that came in is actually quite interesting. So we have 35% of the respondents indicate that the Direct Connect is definitely of interest to them. So that's great. They definitely can realize a lot of the low latency benefits, by coming into a colo provider facility like Equinix. Now, and another 47% actually did indicate VPC is their choice. So, and then the remaining 18% is internet. So with that said, any comments here, Kingsley, about this split?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that almost half of you are encouraged by the idea of VPC. That means that the ability to maintain control of your own IP network, your own network infrastructure is still very important to customers, and we recognize that. And that's really why VPC has become so popular for us, because it means that a company can extend their existing infrastructure without having to migrate everything over at the same time. Again, it's not an all or nothing proposition. You can definitely slowly migrate certain segments or certain components of your infrastructure over to the cloud, and as your confidence and knowledge and skills with the cloud increases, you can move more and more appropriately as you go along with that. Some of the other examples of companies that have done this successfully, obviously the web applications are customer facing, but if we can look at some of the big data and HPC examples, NASA is a great example. When they collect data from their Mars rover, if they take 100 machines to do something in 10 hours, imagine if they could burst that into 1,000 machines and complete the job in 1 hour. That gives them more time to make decisions. They can react quicker to events that happen and so on. Those kind of extensions of their capacity on a burst model allows them to, without having to provision ahead of time, just use the capacity that they need when they need it. And of course, doing that as an extension of their own data center means that they don't have to worry about the security of it. It's literally an extension of their own existing infrastructure. We've talked a little bit about NASDAQ, and SmugMug is another great example, just in terms of the anticipated growth of some of these companies. Dropbox being another one. A lot of you will be users of Dropbox. And I don't know how many of you knew that Dropbox is running completely their infrastructure on Amazon Web Services as well. They could never have foreseen the tremendous success they've had, but the ability to extend into the cloud means that they can, without having to provision all that storage space ahead of time, they can just add it incrementally literally on an hourly basis as more and more customers sign up. So that's been very successful for them as well. So some of the other scenarios you might want to consider if you have internal SharePoint infrastructures. A lot of companies use SharePoint extensively, but the ability to put those capacities in the cloud, in the public cloud, but have them directly accessible only within your internal network or only to your internal employees means that you're extending your existing infrastructure without having to spend a huge amount of money up front. Cloud backup, big data, we've talked about all that, and archive capabilities. Eric, do you want to talk about a good example that's using both together? It's Badgeville.
Yeah, okay. So folks, you know, Badgeville is a platform as a service provider, and they are basically in the gamification space. So gamification is actually a new name. They're pretty much using the game principles, the game theory principles to help measure, and social analytics actually, to go measure influence user behavior. So they decided to definitely go to use Amazon. At the same time, they also want to have a bit of infrastructure to control the databases and also to fine-tune some of the applications. So when they were introduced to this Direct Connect concept, they actually liked it a lot because not only they can still maintain their private infrastructure in doing some of the right-sizing databases, but at the same time they have that seamless connection to Amazon Direct. So that itself has actually realized a lot of the benefits as far as the response times, the page loads are much better improved, and then the operational costs. Right now, they actually reduced some of the operational costs because they save a lot of the local loop costs, which they were previously incurring before. And at the same time, they now have be able to co-locate securely into our facilities and be able to connect efficiently towards Amazon. So you can also see some of the customer names on the right-hand side that they are serving. Definitely some of the big names there, and they are able to serve those customers very well. So there's one of the case studies that came from the U.S. It's Badgeville. So this slide, I also want to introduce you to RightScale. RightScale is a partner of Amazon. RightScale is also a partner of Equinix. And RightScale is actually, I think, is in a very beautiful position here, is to help orchestrate these cloud workloads between the private infrastructure and also towards a public cloud provider, specifically Amazon. So they can actually orchestrate, manage, and monitor these loads to move to and from a public cloud, Amazon, and also back to their private infrastructures. And at the same time, within Platform Equinix, you can also have those service providers that will help them to go do these transit and connectivity connections that that they will need, you know, as far as supporting their own internal private infrastructure. So you can see here, this is a very nice, seamless hybrid cloud kind of a model that you will have the best of both worlds. You have your needs for dealing with some of the private needs, but at the same time garner and also harness all those benefits for a public cloud provider like Amazon. And RightScale sits beautifully, and they also have these kind of server templates which they can go basically stream these server loads directly into an Amazon node. So just want to introduce them. We have also been partnering with them, jointly with them in some of these public events, but definitely want to give this idea to the audiences out there.
Right. And just to repeat again, the concept that we're driving at here is that we recognize that a lot of you have specialized needs or specialized infrastructure that you built up over the years. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to move that all to the cloud right away. So we see the hybrid opportunity working with companies like Equinix and facilitated by accelerators like RightScale, who have been with Amazon Web Services right from the beginning. They can really help you to augment your existing infrastructure with public cloud capacity. So definitely don't think that it's a matter of moving your infrastructure all into the public cloud at the same time. Leave things that are working where they are. If you can move them more efficiently or move components of them, you can do so with Amazon Web Services now in the public cloud without having to disrupt your existing infrastructure. So it's all about making sure that we can provide the very best connectivity with partners. Like RightScale can help you with that, but Equinix can facilitate the optimal routing, the optimal connectivity between your existing infrastructure, your on-premise stuff, and your private cloud into Amazon Web Services public cloud.
Yeah, and we also talked about the different connect options, right, between Equinix and with Amazon, right? And those three choices still stays. Obviously, the Direct Connect is the best and the lowest latency, and the fiber connection, secure fiber connection between Equinix and Amazon, definitely a choice if it's made possible. And if not, it's going to be the VPC and the IP.
Right. And if you're a company that requires all connectivity outside of your existing infrastructure to be on VPN, we can certainly facilitate that with either a hardware VPN option or a software VPN option that can ensure that the connectivity on the Direct Connect between your existing infrastructure and Amazon's web services is secure and can be in compliance with your policy requirements and regulation requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well.
Do we have one more poll?
No, we only have two polls, so it's a Q&A now.
Good.
So we have one question that came, which asked about can the Australian customers leverage the Equinix backbone in Sydney to Singapore? I think this is something related to the announcement that came out.
Right. So let me just clarify what we did release in Sydney. We have an edge location in Sydney, which means that our CloudFront distribution network is able to deliver content to the edge location and from the edge location to Sydney-based or Sydney-located customers. When you use a CloudFront prefix in front of your content, whether it's static or dynamic, Amazon will automatically do a latency detection to determine where that customer is best suited or best fed by, and that will be the edge location. What we cannot do yet with the Amazon edge location in Sydney is provide a direct connect capability. That's only available at certain regions of Amazon Web Services. We are looking at exploring how we can accelerate that, but just to know that Amazon does not control the connectivity between our regions and the edge locations. That's over the open internet. So once a connection is made, a direct connect is made to one of our regions, for instance in Singapore, then that connectivity is guaranteed between you, the customer, or via Equinix to a region location. But the edge locations are separate from that. We'll be looking to expand our infrastructure worldwide, I'm sure, over the coming years. So just watch out for additional capacity that gets added, and then additional endpoints or additional connection points for Direct Connect will be added in time.
Okay, so we have a next question, which is related to RightScale, and what is the exact role in RightScale into Amazon?
Sure. So RightScale has been with us right from the beginning. They've developed a tremendous number of skills and capability to accelerate the deployment of capacity into AWS. It's one thing to do a demo and start up a single machine or start up a single elastic load balancer and demonstrate how that works. That's easy enough. But what RightScale does is really take that on a massive scale forward. If you look at an example of one of our customers like Zynga, running a game like Facebook's Farmville, you might have heard of. That game actually runs 7,500 instances 24 hours a day just to support that one game. Now if you think about the logistics involved in maintaining an awareness or a control over 7,500 instances, that's where RightScale can really come in and help out. As well as the fact that if you configure a certain image, a certain application in a certain way, and then you want to duplicate that across hundreds and hundreds of instances and maintain control and automatically configure them with parameterized inputs of where all the IP addresses tie in together so they're all talking together nicely, that's where RightScale's capability with their templates really comes in. So I encourage you to go and listen to what they have to say about how they can help you scale your use of AWS to even massive levels.
So we have a next question about customers in India. Do they have a direct connect option?
We don't have a direct connect endpoint in India at the moment. What you can do, and what is possible if you're willing to spend the money, is create a fiber link from your location in India all the way to Singapore. Now this doesn't sound, it sounds maybe a little bit more daunting than it is, but obviously there's a lot of connectivity between the countries. If you can create or if you can lease a line, a direct line from your location to our Equinix endpoint, which is a direct connect point in Singapore, we can then have Equinix create the connection from that endpoint into Amazon Web Services in Singapore. So that's the requirement there. Now, it may cost a little bit of money to set that up, but once that's done, that's your private line, which guarantees you both the bandwidth and the security between your location in India and the the Direct Connect endpoint in Singapore.
Okay. So there is this question about how different is the VPC compared to Direct Connect. So I think it's obvious location supports Direct Connect or not, or can we just use the VPC?
Well, yeah, just to clarify that the VPC is a capability on Amazon Web Services side. So you can either start your capacity, your machines, your virtual instances in EC2 or in EC2 VPC, which is a virtual private cloud version of EC2. All that does, in addition to being the same capacity, is that it's now on a network that you specify. It's on a subnet that you have control of, right? The connectivity into that, if it's over the open internet, can be a simple connection with which connection we all have access to, a typical internet connection, or you could be using a VPN connection, which would be either by hardware or by software. So it can be an open source VPN connectivity, and then the receiving end, the instance inside of AWS, whether it's in EC2 or in VPC, allows you to connect with whatever security model you want to use on that VPN.
Okay, yeah. So I think, you know, it also depends on the locations, what's available, right? So,
right.
So as the developments continue on, as the demand for cloud continues on, I think there will be more and more locations that we're going to look into, you know, how we can actually help serve customers in different kind of forms and needs and demands.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe I'll take that next question. It's, someone asked, where can I find details of the various Equinix connection points, the Direct Connect endpoints? Does it have endpoints to all AWS regions? Yes, most of them do. If you go to aws.amazon.com/Direct Connect, you'll be able to see a list of our connection points there. And if you contact us directly, we're happy to share the various technical details there. There's a few specifics like AS numbers, I think, and so on, we can share, which will give the actual routing information, enable you to connect with your service provider or transit carrier that can actually create the connection for you, the fiber connection to the specific endpoint. And in Singapore's example, for instance, there's that Equinix endpoint there that can handle the direct connector input.
And also another supplementary information as well, you know, in Equinix.com, we also outlined our partnership between Amazon Web Services and us, and they also have some discussion points about how do we connect towards Amazon in different formats and different ways and methods. So I also encourage folks out there, if you want to also look at from the Equinix side, especially if you're an Equinix customer, then, you know, feel free to go browse that webpage and find more information.
Yeah. Again, one more time, if you go to aws.amazon.com/Direct Connect, I'm just looking at it right now. In terms of sites, we've got the Los Angeles site, the Ashburn, Virginia, San Jose in California, Singapore, Tokyo, and London as well. So it specifies those all there. And again, you can choose if you want a 1 gig port or a 10 gig port going into those connections.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this next question is how long can it take to get the direct connection established from India to Singapore through Equinix?
Yeah, that's quite a lot of cable you have to lay there.
Exactly.
Assuming obviously the cables are already there, you just need to coordinate with your ISP or your transit carrier from India. If they can establish the connection, that simply means a matter of allocating one of those fiber bands from your location all the way through to Singapore. So the route has to be established, and you can then lease that line. Once that line is leased, contact us, and we can provide you with the actual endpoint in terms of the AS number and details at Equinix in Singapore, where we can actually connect it up. I'm told once it's all set up, it's literally a matter of calling some guy in the data center, and he goes over and clicks a cable between A and B. So it can take less than an hour once all the pieces are in place. It's just a matter of getting all the pieces in place. So if you've got a specific requirement there that's not able to be met by the website, please contact us and we'll help you set that up. But it is a matter of establishing the fiber link between your location and one of our Direct Connect endpoints, which Equinix provides.
Yeah. So we were definitely looking out into that market as well, because we know it's an emerging market.
Right.
So I think it's just a matter of time that we can also improve that connection.
Right. So yeah, and back to the person who asked the question, if you can just investigate a little bit with your best ISP or transit carrier in India about what their costs and what their time frame would be to establish that connection for you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the question.
Yep. Okay, so it seems like there's no more questions in the pipeline. Maybe a couple final thoughts about how the market is evolving and what are some of the customer demands that you're serving at this point, what's hot in the market. So just a bit of sharing.
Just one observation here. We've been talking to a lot of customers that have a tremendous amount of data that they want to move into the cloud. One of the ways we can facilitate that very readily is through a Direct Connect. It gives you a dedicated bandwidth. There's no interruption. There's no competing with other internet weather, as we like to call it, which can vary as well. So the ability to set up a dedicated connection certainly helps you to transmit a lot of that data in. Having said that, there is still the old school method of loading up a whole bunch of multiple terabyte drives and using our import-export service. We can actually receive those drives through FedEx. You can send them to us. We will then upload the data in. But a lot of companies have an ongoing need, maybe a daily need or a weekly need to upload data or refresh data or synchronize data. And that's where the Direct Connect service can really come in handy. If you can establish a connection that you can rely on, it's dedicated, it's very, very quick, super low latency, and of course secure, that's probably the best way that your company can continue to keep synchronized between your on-premise needs or your colo needs or your specialized hardware needs and the public cloud.
One thing from my side here from Equinix, we definitely see a lot of the hybrid cloud developments going on these days, and a lot of the customers, especially some bigger size enterprises, they do have private infrastructure. They definitely see a path that they have to go into cloud. They're developing their cloud strategy, and they are starting in phases on how to utilize these public cloud resources. And of course, as I mentioned before, and Kingsley have said that as well, that we are aware that some of these there will be some private infrastructures that will not go in the cloud, but there will be others that will go step by step will go into the public cloud. So we see and that exactly the same here in Equinix. So what I feel is when the folks of you are looking into hybrid cloud models, definitely looking into your latency requirements, finding the right sources to help you go achieve those low latency requirements, and at the same time have those choices out there, right? Help you to garner these choices and also learn about the whole public cloud utilization. I think this is definitely something new, but it's actually very, very interesting at the same time from a cost standpoint and a utilization standpoint. It does serve a lot of the needs in the market. So I think as we go evolve this path more, as more of these cloud products and services comes out more, I think the acceptance and the receptivity of cloud will become higher and higher.
Great. And if there are any specialized use cases or specialized needs or new concepts in terms of how you are thinking of maybe using the public cloud, please contact us. Again, it's Kingsley Wood, kwood@amazon.com. I'd really like to hear from you if you've got some specialized needs that you're exploring and you think the public cloud might be a good idea, but you haven't quite vetted that solution. We're definitely, Eric and I are very eager to hear your needs and see how we can meet those demands. As Eric rightly points out, this is a constantly evolving set of technologies. People are finding new ways to use it and new use cases where we didn't see them coming 6 months ago. So we're looking very hard at how we can help the customers meet their needs and meet their demands. So contact us, please, and let us know about some of your special cases that we can help out. And it doesn't hurt to run some tests and see how the cloud might be able to work out situation here. And working with Equinix, we can really help to lower the latency and improve the performance for a lot of your customer experiences. Thanks.
Yeah. So folks, I think that pretty much wraps up today's webinar. As you close this session, folks, there will be a feedback form. Feel free to leave your contact information and also some of the comments that you have about today's session. In case you have any questions, in case you want to leave your contact so that you and myself and also Kingsley would like to have some specialized discussions about usages in the public cloud, we're more than glad to honor and have that discussion with you. So with that said, that will be a wrap for today.
Great.
Okay, so thanks again for your time, and we'll look forward to the next webinar, and we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
The organizer